Hey, it's Super Death Show. Sorry if my voice goes out. It's been going in and out recently. So I started using a new tool when I'm making the comics. Sometimes you guys ask what the little buttons are on my screen. It's called Radial Menu because my Surface Pro doesn't have any face buttons, so I don't have like an undo shortcut hotkey type of deal, and I have to click those little buttons up there. It makes it a little bit easier. For copy paste, anything you got to hold down Control or Shift or anything like that, or Alt, it makes it a little bit easier. But I started using recently Lazy Nezumi, and I use it on this page that you're watching, and that's what I want to talk about today. Just singing the praises of Lazy Nezumi. For those of you who watch these Super Death Show videos from a long time ago, or used to read the comic from a long time ago, I used to make this thing in Flash. When you draw in Flash, it's vector, and when you're drawing in Flash with the brush tool, it has this smoothing property where if you make a stroke, it'll kind of smooth it out to make it look nice and clean. It'll give you really clean lines. You can achieve this in Photoshop, and you can achieve this in Manga Studio or Clip Studio, and it looks really nice inside. But I drew in Flash so long that I kind of relied on this smoothing, and it made inking super quick and stuff. And when I had to move over to Photoshop, because my Surface Pro 4 couldn't run the older version of Flash that I used to really like running. Not a big fan of Animate, but when I had to move to Photoshop, I had to fish for strokes more often. You probably know what I mean when you're drawing. To get your smooth lines, you do a quick stroke, and if it's not right, you'll have to undo. Quick stroke, undo, quick stroke, undo, until you get the perfect stroke. But Lazy Nezumi has kind of like this. It's kind of like this program that kind of helps stabilize your strokes, so you don't have to make such a quick quip. You know, you can slowly make your curves, or if you have a really long line that you have to do, instead of having to break it up into shorter lines or having to try to fish for that perfect long line, you can just take it slow, and depending on how you have your smoothness set, your cursor can kind of lag behind where your actual stylus is. It'll kind of stay behind. If you've got your smoothness turned way up, it'll stay behind your cursor, and your cursor will stay behind your stylus, and you can, if you're going slow, you know how it is when you draw and you're going slow, it'll end up kind of making like a jaggy line. But instead, if it's dragging behind, it'll kind of auto-correct and fix it. And there's another mode for this smoothness called pull string, where you'll see a little line coming from your stylus on the screen, where your stylus currently is, and then your actual brush cursor. And it's kind of like if you had a string. It's self-explanatory. You're pulling the actual cursor with this string, so you can actually go up and down, and it'll still go straight, and it'll kind of follow. It's kind of like a lag thing. But I kept the smoothness turned down, so it's not too far behind my stylus when I'm drawing, and it helped out a whole lot. Like, I'm not fishing so much for strokes. You can see in the video, in the time-lapse video, that I'm not undoing as much as I used to. If I do undo, that's just because I suck at drawing and I shouldn't have made that stroke in the first place. But I'm finding I'm not fishing for strokes, and it made things a whole lot quicker. Like that's one of the fastest pages that I've ever inked in Photoshop, because of Lazy Nezumi. I can't remember the website. I think it's just lazynezumi.com. It's free. You can use it for like 30 days, which is like a long time to try it out. And then I think after that it's like 30 bucks or something like that. But I think I'm gonna buy it. Like I'm still on the trial, but I think I'm gonna buy it because, you know, you set it and forget it, it'll run in the background, and it's just making drawing easier on me. Like even sketching is easier because I don't know, it just seems like my strokes come out better. But I'm liking it. Another thing that I noticed that's pretty cool is it's got like these kind of guides that you can use. Like there's this one for, like, I can't even remember what it's called. It's like a radial or a burst or something. You know, on like a really actiony panel where it's like, "Rah!" and they've got lines coming out, kind of like a spiral lines. Normally, I would always have to try to make those lines individually, and I'd have to undo a lot because, you know, I can't make them straight all the time. Or I'd have to hold down Shift and then make a bunch of horizontal lines, and then try to select them and then transform and rotate them to where it looks like, you know. But the way this works is you just pick a point, and then if you draw a line, it's always going to be straight into this point. So you can pick a point that's like right on the head and then draw all of these lines. It just makes it a whole lot easier. There's some other things like perspective where you can set up your points to where you'll always draw these buildings and they'll have your straight lines and it'll be perfect perspective. I haven't tried that out yet. It seems like a lot of setup to get that working, and there's all kinds of other geometrical things that you can do to use this thing as a guide. But just for the smoothing, I like it. And if you haven't heard about it, it's worth a shot. You know, it doesn't just work for Photoshop. I think you can hook it into other programs too, besides Photoshop, like maybe even Paint. But it automatically worked in Photoshop, and I have no experience with Manga Studio, but I hear Manga Studio has this kind of stuff built in, and Paint Tool site, it already just seems like whenever you draw on it, everything's just like butter. But for Photoshop, me coming from like a Flash background, just drawing in Flash, it kind of makes things easier, it kind of makes things quicker, and it kind of feels a little more like Flash. But yeah, Lazy Nezumi, you should give it a shot. Sorry about last week's video title. I titled it I Quit. I didn't even realize it was really clickbaity, and that wasn't my intention at all. I said last week's video. It was actually a couple weeks ago, I think. I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry about that. In the next page, I don't know, I've noticed a lot of you guys like watching these videos. Also, a lot of you don't even read the comic, which, you know, that's cool that you watch these videos about me drawing my comic, but you don't read the comic. But for those of you that do read my comic, this page went up Sunday, and I have to work like 14 days straight, so it's going to be hard to find the time. But if I do find the time, I've already got it written, and it's just got to be drawn and paneled and colored and shaded and lettered and all this junk. But if I find the time to do the next page within the next 14 days, it's going to be the start of the next chapter. So Chapter 5 of Danger Vision, Super Death Face, starts with the next page. We finally get to see Clone Nick and regular Nick kind of meet up with each other, and that's gonna be fun. I'm excited about my comic. I don't know. Bye guys. Thanks for watching this video. I'll try to see you next week.